senior government officials, invited guests, our friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Constitutional Review Committee. To officially do the welcome, may I now invite the Minister for Justice and Attorney General of the Republic of Ghana to briefly give us the reason why we are here, please.
Thank you. Mr. President, senior government officials, ministers of state, chairman and members of the Constitutional Review Committee, members of the media, good afternoon. As already indicated, the purpose of today's meeting is to receive the report of the Constitution Review Committee. The committee, Your Excellency, was set up on the 19th of January, about 11 months ago, to listen to the people of Ghana, review previous work that had been done on the Constitution, and then make proposals for the Constitution to be amended and made more welfare enhancing for the people of this country. Today, the committee is here, led by its chairman, Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh, to present the outcome of the work that they've been doing for the last 11 months. Mr. President, without much ado, I will invite the chairman of the committee to step forward and then let us know what he has for you and for your government and the people of the country. Thank you.
The President, Honorable Attorney General and Minister for Justice, Honorable Chief of Staff, and members of the Presidency, my fellow members of the Constitution Review Committee and the Secretariat, ladies and gentlemen, to be here today to present the report, an abridged report, I would say, but this is a summary of main recommendations as we have called it. But this has been the culmination of 18 months of painstaking work. You tasked us that we needed to go through an inclusive participatory process. And then otherwise, it was more like a blank slate that you gave us. You also said you needed us to bring actionable recommendations and that you didn't want any theory. So we took that to heart. And in the last 18 months, the last 11 months, we have traveled the country. We've been to 10 regions of the country, held engagements in the country, from academia to trade unions. And we believe that at the end of it, what it is that we propose will indeed be the actionable recommendations that you tasked us to come up with. Doing this service for country, in the process, we've learned a lot about our own country. We've traveled the length and breadth of this country, and it's given us insights that I think many of us probably would not have gotten but for this opportunity. So we're very grateful for that opportunity. I must also recall, because I happen to know how fraught constitution review processes are in other parts of the region, in other parts of the continent. Ours was just a very simple process. I happened to participate in a webinar recently about a constitution review process going on in another African country. And when I mentioned our process, they said, "You mean the President's Attorney General just called you and said they wanted you to chair this thing, and that was it? I mean, no fighting, nothing happened?" I said, "No." It was just mind-boggling. They couldn't understand that you could get something off the ground as big as a constitution review project in an African country without thinking that this is really a very rare moment for us. We learned a lot from Ghanaians. There is a big clamor for change, and I do not think that it is something that we took for granted when we traveled the country and got a sense of the expectation that people had. So we have done our best in these pages, about 100 and so pages, recommendations, and then find with our reasons and all the theories should be in that one. These are the actionable recommendations for now. So I'll invite my fellow members, if you would join me. We have copies, the first 6 copies of the report to present to you, Mr. President, and if that's okay. All right, good. So I have been advised that it would be helpful to highlight a few things are told exactly what it is. They are giving parameters, certain things that must be included or must not be included. We were not given any such parameters. So we listened to Ghanaians. We reviewed the past efforts that had been done. And some of the highlights, I would say, are not what people are expecting. So I think for the first time, we think we are ready as a country to make a historic move in the way in which our local government is structured. So we are advocating that we deepen our democracy by extending it downwards to the local communities. And we're also proposing in that direction, if we're going to be electing MMDCEs, that we should also take another look at our chieftain legitimacy that chiefs have for good at the local level. So we are also proposing to bring them into the local government structure, initially in the legislative and deliberative body at the district assembly, but we are proposing that there must be some plan to bring them in a more direct governing role at the sub-district level in terms of how our towns and villages are run. And for that, we have left the task to a devolution commission that we're proposing to really roll out and manage the whole decentralization enterprise as a country. We're also proposing changes in the Council of State, a significant change in the way in which that body is organized, partly in response to an expanded purpose, returning it more or less to its original 1969 intention, which was to be a co-guarantor of the independence in the area of appointments, so that a number with a nomination for the president. There are also, I think, one of the areas that we think is also important is the way the relationship between the executive and the legislature is organized. There has been a lot of talk around the separation of the two. We have looked at the evidence. Clearly, it works for some countries. We know that in Britain and other places, the entire executive comes from the legislature. That's fine for them. It's quite well here. And since we're supposed to be doing actionable recommendations, we thought, well, it also has to respond to our specific context. So we're proposing that what we have called the hybrid, which we have run for some time, over 30 years now, that we dispense with it, that focuses on things that we think would be new. One of the things that we believe would be new for us is also in the way in which our public services and the public sector generally has been organized, and the role of partisanship in the operations of our public sector, whether it's the commercial sector, the SOEs, or it's the public services, civil service generally. So we have made quite a number of recommendations. The affinity remains. But when it comes to running the affairs of states, we believe that we need to erect some walls around the state so that those who go in there are going in there not representing party interest. Those interests are in government appropriately, and we believe that we need to protect the state sector from over-politicization. So we have made certain recommendations affecting things like the appointment processes for state-owned enterprises. We also think it's about time to draw in SIGA, or a SIGA-like body, into the Constitution. We've always maintained this fiction in our Constitution that the public services, those public corporations of a commercial nature, do not belong in the Constitution. So we've kept them away, and while they are not strictly public services, we believe that the kind of impact they have on the economy, the scale of their operations, the percentage of GDP that they control, the contingent liabilities they impose on us, the systemic risk, all of those things justify bringing them closer to the Constitution so we can put some oversight and regulations around them. So we are bringing in a SIGA-like body. We don't know if it's going to call SIGA, but they're usually called commissions, so we don't know if SIGA wants to be called a State Enterprises Commission again. But that's something of the sort is what we're proposing. I think lastly, the issue of electing MMDCs, I want to return to that a bit. It was once we opened that, that Pandora's box, so to speak, it became clear that it had a lot of moving parts, a lot of different implications, because once you do it, then many other secondary questions arise. So we thought it needed to be done in a more systematic, orderly fashion. So what this committee has done is provide something of a roadmap, but then somehow leave the details to this devolution commission with some principles to really roll it out. Because partly we think maybe just starting with 261 elections across the country for districts, some of which are too atomistic, too small to even be viable, may not be the best way to start it. So we have more or less proposing a rolled out or a phased-in kind of devolution where certain districts that meet certain objective benchmarks would begin the process of electing their mayors while others graduate into the process. It's not peculiar to Ghana. I think even in UK, not every city gets to elect their mayor. You have to more or less meet certain benchmarks before you graduate into that category. So we're proposing a similar arrangement where the devolution commission applying certain criteria and benchmarks that are transparent and objective will then roll this out so that we don't have this, we have the report. There isn't, we couldn't find a place. We looked and looked and looked, we couldn't find, we demand for it at all. The only thing about that was the invitation for us to clarify ambiguity, and we didn't even want to go there. We didn't think that 66.2 raised any issues in terms of ambiguity, so we kept it the way it is. However, we believe we took to heart the recommendations that we got from term was 5. And that even in the region, we in Nigeria have the lowest. 4 is pretty low. So we're proposing an extension by 1 more year. We have coupled that with certain recommendations on about 6 months or so to set up, and then 1 year campaigning and all of that. So we thought a definite campaign period, before which you cannot do electioneering. You can't put posters, can't put billboards, can't do jingles, can't do rallies. So it's like the fishing season. You have to open it before you can go fish. So we are proposing a campaign season, a short one, so that government will have time to govern, and that the people we elect to do the government's business will really have time to focus on governing as opposed to doing campaigning. So for the first time, we hope, if this is accepted, that we will have a political or electoral environment where campaigns, we do not run 24-hour, 24/7, 4-year campaigns, but where there is a definite period before which parties and candidates may not do campaigning. We think that would free up time for governing. But I think some of the changes we've also made in the area of appointments, I think will also unburden the presidency and also allow the president to focus more on the real business of governing as opposed to being saddled with many appointments, some of which we believe that the president would be more than happy to give up. So these are some of the highlights. We think on the whole we have done the best job that we could, given the opportunity. Where there are difficult issues that cannot be immediately resolved. For example, how do you integrate chiefs into local government at the town and village level? This is where people live their lives. This is where chiefs tend to have most power. But it's going to be a radical transformation. So we thought, instead of this committee making that decision, that the Devolution Commission then can open dialogue with the National House of Chiefs and the Regional House of Chiefs, and then with government, and begin to fashion out modalities for that integration. We believe that some of these decisions need a little bit more deliberation and more thought and more systematic approaches. So we have deferred those ones to bodies like the Devolution Commission, which we believe will help. For the Attorney General, we want to take some of his powers so that the oral will be done by someone. We don't have a career civil servant being Attorney General. We think that raises challenges when it comes. We are proposing an pull together from some of the agencies we already have. So Shraj has some anti-corruption work, not prosecution. We think Shraj can just focus on the human rights and ombudsman work. There's plenty of that for Shraj to do. So we would take Shraj and then create out of that mix a new commission, which would then handle cases of corruption. So arbitration and the big constitutional cases and all of those other legal policy issues, reforming legal education, the profession, and all of those things is taking all of his time. So we think he should be happy to see what it is that we're proposing. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. May I now invite His Excellency, the President, for the presentation of the report, please. Shall we please give the committee another big round of applause? Even as we invite His Excellency the President to address us.
Thank you very much. And there's not much more to say, just to thank you for this beautiful Christmas gift. I want to thank all the members of the committee. You were chosen carefully for your integrity, your credibility. And we haven't had the experience of constitutional. This time we said, let's choose the committee very carefully, so that it's a committee that Ghanaians have a trust in, so that when the report comes, it would be non-partisan. It would not have been influenced by any political interest, so that it will make it easier for all of us to come together move the process forward. Our 1992 Constitution has served us very well. I mean, it's been the most durable Constitution, but going in nations before. So I'm not as shocked as some of you who are sitting here who are hearing them for the first time. And so I want to thank the committee for the teasers that Professor Prempeh gave us. So you can take a rest after working so hard for so many months. You can enjoy your Christmas. And as soon as we resume early next year, we're moving from the constitutional review process into the implementation process. And so early next year, we would announce an implementation committee. And of course, we're going to call some of you to come and serve on that committee because we need that institutional memory transferred into the implementation. And so take a rest now, but next year we might call some of you again also, and the Attorney General, they will look at it, and we'll see how to synchronize, our views. I think that many of some are quite radical, but I think that it's in the interest of our democracy. Currently in our sub-region, we can see many countries backsliding with regards to their democratic and constitutional governance. And so this has shown that a lot of our citizens were beginning to lose faith in our democracy. And that is why it is important for us to let them know that democratic governance is still better than any other form of governance. You might be excited about the romanticism of military governments and all that, but in the end, it is democratic governments that unleash their creative potential, unlike where we will implement it in a bipartisan manner. All of us would come together and implement as many of the provisions as possible. I take, for instance, the issue of the Council of State and the enormous powers the president is giving to make appointments. I believe that the Council of State giving a bigger role in those appointments, but the Council of State will go, I was giving before, which you have done a great service to our nation, and you can be proud of yourselves. We have to take a decision whether to just make that. Now that we've received it, I mean, I don't want it to be kept like a nuclear secret. So we probably would have to decide on a date to publish it so that August, and may God.
Thank you very much.